we're all a materialization of whole divine being. So we're a materialization, the body mind, the material world is a materialization of transcendental being, the transcendental consciousness, the the divine energy and divine love, all then materialize, coalesce, manifest, like slow motion into material form. So the body, mind, the whole material plane, in, let's say, the more advanced stages of whole being realization, are recognized to be material manifestations of the transcendental aspects of divine being, the unmanifest aspects, divine consciousness, divine energy, divine love, materialized into form like slow motion, but one singular continuity, unity, one unified divine field. Singular. There's only ultimate divine being. One singularity. Now, one of the things that happens, that there's a progression of realization, weave this in, more can be said about this. Initially, so there's, when the core condition is not clarified, we'll tend to feel separate because there's the transcendental and the material and they're not connected. There's the absolute and relative, they're not connected. Then with initial whole being realization, then we recognize, okay, that there's this both and, it's one seamless unity. Okay, the inside, outside, that's seamless unity, the absolute relative, the divine and material, all one unified field, this both and. So there's a sense of this continuity, having more access to the continuity, the seamless unity continuity. In my realization, it was kind of, at first it was like kind of a continuum, a continuity. As we deepen in realization, the unity, this paradoxical seamless unity further intensified. And long story short, well, there's also the wake down, shakedown, the divinization of the personal self. After initial realization, let's say there's a further infusion of consciousness and the divine into the body, and a new, let's say, the personal self in the material world gets further divinized. And then there's for integration. Skipping forward, you could say then unity magnifies, and then singularity increases. So there's just this divine being is singular. There is the absolute relative, let's say the material and transcendental further fused together, where there's not two, but just one. Now, this is, let's say, a perspective from the more advanced stages of realization. It wasn't as obvious, let's say, early on in after the initial stage of my whole being realization. And let's say, by exposing myself to more transmission and through grace and the desire to further deepen, let's say there is a further growth and evolution in realization, so that a simple way of saying it is the unity moves just towards a singularity where the divine and material are more fused together. Then in the moment, again, this is a moment to moment recognition. It's not something that you arrive at and then you go, okay, check, I've done that. In this moment to moment recognition, then everything is divine being. The transcendental dimension is divine being, and then the material is world, plane is divine being in material form. And through repeated immersion in this unified field and getting this unified field transmission, and through inference by being immersed in it and then recognizing, extending that to recognize this is at the heart of existence and is true whether I may be fully registering it or not. It's still true. There's only ultimate divine being. Then there's a greater relaxation into recognizing everything that is happening, every experience, every material thing, trees, animals, cars, this experience of being nervous, it's all a manifestation of divine being arising in divine being. There's only divine being, which is simultaneously unmanifested and manifested, simultaneously transcendental and material. So that there's that deepened recognition, and there's only divine being. Everything that happens is manifest, unmanifest. It's all divine being. So this is what, let's say, reveals itself in as we advance into the more advanced stages of whole being realization. And you can't talk about it. It's like trying to describe love or the stages of love. I could talk, write poetry. Words are not going to describe it. We can point at it because the words are all linear, and existence and the core paradox is not linear. It's just this total isness, this totality of divine being. There is only this totality of whole divine being simultaneously unmanifested and manifested. Paradoxically, it's the paradox of simultaneity, and simultaneously transcendental and material. Okay. I wanted to read one thing that I had written here. Let's see, where is that piece of paper? There it is. Okay, so this is, you've heard of the term both and. So the core paradox is the both andness of existence. It's both absolute and relative. So I came up with some terms. These are, I've said some of them already. These are like the both and, about the core paradox and the conscious paradox. All right, so one way of describing the core paradox and conscious paradox is existence is both being and becoming. So being would be the absolute, becoming as the relative. The being is eternal, relative is changing. The both and also of being, core divine being is simultaneously unmanifested and manifested. Ultimate divine being is simultaneously transcendental and material, both and. Ultimate divine being is simultaneously absolute and relative. Don't have to put them together. It's inherent, a seamless, indivisible, singular unity. Ultimate divine being is both infinite and finite. Ultimate divine being is both spirit and matter, both and. Ultimate divine being is both eternal and changing. Ultimate divine being is both divine and human. That each of us is both divine and human. And since there is only ultimate divine being, everyone is that already. So there's nothing that is not ultimate divine being. Everyone, everything is already that. That's the core condition. So the body-mind is materialized divine being. So I am divine. I am, well, I am the wholeness as the totality of divine being in a material form. Then I am God all inclusively. You are God all inclusively. We all are God. Everyone and everything is God or divine being. You can't not be it because there is only ultimate whole divine being. Ultimate divine being is both divine and human. I said that. Ultimate divine being is unlimited and limited. Ultimate divine being is singularity and multiplicity. Ultimate divine being is timeless beingness and temporal embodiment or mortal embodiment. That means it comes in existence and it dies. I don't like that part. So I think, let's see if there's anything else I want to say at this point before we open discussion. Oh, okay. To talk about devotion and, let's say, the love bliss aspect. Singularity can be kind of dry, or it can be kind of juicy. This the recognition of the seamless, singular unity, the unified field of whole divine being, can just be this more neutral isness. Let's say, there's an Amrita side dimension. I would call it the feminine or mother aspect of existence. That the Amrita means nectar and bliss. So in this aspect of whole divine being as being divine love and bliss, this is not something we talk a lot about in Trillium Awakening, but it is, for me, an important part of divine being is this happiness aspect and the bliss, the love bliss dimension of whole divine being. And that's the nectarous Amrita side. So you can even get intoxicated on this, where you can feel drunk in this love bliss aspect of whole divine being, and then you can feel energized, like the body alive with the divine energy. And then there's the more, let's say, the mind can be quieter, or rising in the transcendental awareness. So these are some of the, let's say, divine pleasures of whole divine being. Okay, so to hit the other point I said I would get to, but non-duality. Non-duality, the way it's commonly taught, okay, this is oversimplified, excuse me, tends to talk about that consciousness or transcendental awareness is the self is real, and whatever changes phenomena is not real. And so that is an oversimplification about how Advaita is currently taught. And it splits existence into what changes material is not the divine, is not the self, it's not real, and what's eternal, transcendental. So in this case, transcendental awareness, primordial awareness is the self is real, capital R. What changes is not real. So it's splitting existence and favoring just one aspect of divine being. So let's say there's more to realize than that. Let's just put it that way. But many people who have realized that say that that's the whole enchilada is only half an enchilada, and I prefer the whole enchilada. So going back to the love bliss, in this intoxication, when it comes in its own organic waves, let's say devotion naturally arises because basically the divine is revealing itself through the Shakti energy, the enlivenment, and the love bliss intensification, which can be an intoxication where actually feeling a drunkenness or like being stoned or drunk, and it demonstrates, hey, the divine is real, this divine, it's alive, and there's an intoxication. So it's exhilarating and humbling. It's like, oh wow, the mind is taken beyond itself, and love, one is let's say, see that existence is a manifestation of love at the heart of everything. So that is the enjoyment of devotional impulse. So one comment about that, those who are devotionally wired up, we like there's the truth of existence is there is no other, but in the practical everyday sense, there's a sense of Van is merging into the unity and can be dissolved in the unity. And those are devotional like a slow dissolve into the unity and melting into the divine mystery unified field and the intoxication of that. So there's devotional will like the slow deliciousness of the slow dissolving into the Supreme Mother, or the divine field, whatever you want to call it, no gender. And that's how I'm ordered. I am, let's say, I very much enjoy bliss.